What really happened to the stars of Storage Wars? Personalities we once laughed with, rooted for, and watched either strike gold or walk away with nothing. Over the years, some of those familiar faces suddenly disappeared from our screens, leaving fans to wonder what was really going on. Did tragedy strike? Were there bitter feuds behind the scenes? Or did they simply decide to step away from the spotlight? The truth, as it turns out, isn't as dark as the rumors might suggest, but it is every bit as surprising. Barry Weiss was more than just a cast member on Storage Wars. He was the very heart and soul of the show, from the first moment he rolled. Up to an auction in one of his beloved vintage cars, wearing his trademark gloves and flashing that mischievous grin, viewers knew they were watching someone unique. Barry wasn't the loudest bidder, nor was he the most aggressive competitor. What he brought to the series was something far rare: unfiltered joy. While most of the other bidders calculated profit margins or devised business strategies, Barry approached every storage locker like it was a treasure chest waiting to reveal its secrets. He didn't just see potential dollar signs, he saw history, stories, and adventure. When he uncovered an old jukebox, he'd talk more about the music it once played than about what it might fetch at resale. When he discovered collectibles, his excitement was as genuine as a child on Christmas morning. For Barry, the thrill was not in selling it, was in discovering. Part of what made Barry so different was that he didn't need the money. Long before Storage Wars, he had already built his fortune in the wholesale produce business. Auctions for him weren't about survival. They were about fun. That freedom let him take risks that other bidders wouldn't dare. He might throw money at a locker everyone else thought was worthless, or walk away from a sure profit simply because it didn't interest him. Fans loved this unpredictable streak because it reminded them why they loved the show in the first place: the sheer thrill of discovery, even when his finds weren't particularly valuable. Barry managed to make them entertaining, could turn a dusty box of books into a lively conversation about forgotten authors, or transform an old piece of furniture into a lesson on craftsmanship. His knowledge of antiques and collectibles wasn't superficial either. Barry truly understood and respected the history behind the things he found. That respect shone through every time he handled a discovery. After 4 seasons, however, Barry decided to step away quietly. There was no dramatic fallout, no heated arguments, just a man choosing to end one chapter and move on to the next, much like placing a finished book back on the shelf. Fans were sad but not shocked. Barry never seemed like someone desperate for fame. He was simply a man who enjoyed sharing his adventures. In the years after Storage Wars, Barry kept a low profile, devoting his time to his passions, collecting cars, hunting antiques, and enjoying adventures without cameras. Occasionally, he'd appear in interviews or as a guest, always with that same warmth and charm. Life seemed good until 2019, when tragedy struck. While riding his motorcycle through Los Angeles, Barry was involved in a serious crash. The accident left him with multiple broken bones, severe chest and leg injuries, and internal damage. Man who once walked into storage units brimming with confidence suddenly found himself fighting for his life in a hospital bed. His recovery was long and painful, involving multiple surgeries and months of rehabilitation. Barry had to relearn basic movements with the same hands that once carefully handled antiques. His legs, which had carried him through auctions, now struggled with each step. For such an active man, the forced stillness was an enormous challenge. Yet his spirit, the very thing that made fans adore him, remained unbroken. He treated recovery like another adventure, patient and determined, taking it one step at a time. When Barry eventually returned to public life, fans were thrilled. His sense of humor and signature smile were still there, though he carried himself more carefully. The accident had changed him, but it hadn't defeated him. Then there was Dave Hester, the man many considered the villain of Storage Wars. If the show was like a poker table, Dave was the guy slamming his chips down to rattle. Everyone else? From day one, his loud personality, relentless bidding, and infamous yoop made him impossible to ignore. He craved the best lockers, the biggest profits, and most importantly, the last word. But in 2018, Dave's life took a sudden turn. Late one night, he suffered a stroke that left him struggling with coordination and speech. Instead of battling for storage lockers, he was fighting to recover in a hospital bed. For a man who thrived on control, it was a humbling experience. Dave disappeared from the show for some time, focusing on his health. Slowly, he regained his strength and eventually returned to the auction world, though his fire was still there. Fans noticed he had softened, seemed less interested in stirring constant battles and more focused on enjoying life. Even those who once couldn't stand him respected his resilience. His comeback was proof that sometimes even the loudest voices need a moment of silence before being heard again. Ivy Calvin entered Storage Wars like a force of nature. A former football player and mixed martial artist, he carried himself with the confidence of someone who had nothing to prove. Nicknamed the King of Palmdale, Ivy had a knack for spotting value where others saw junk. To him, buying lockers wasn't just about flipping items, it was about running his resale store, Grandma's Attic, with pride. Over time, however, fans began noticing his presence fading. His big laughs and competitive energy weren't gone, but they weren't as frequent either. Off-camera, Ivy was focusing on his health and his family. Later episodes often showed him bringing his sons along, turning auctions into family outings. Instead of fierce competitions, in his own quiet way, Ivy reminded fans that sometimes the greatest wins happen outside the spotlight. Daryl Sheets, meanwhile, lived up to his nickname, the Gambler. Unlike Barry, who sought adventure, Daryl chased the big score. He wasn't afraid to throw serious money at lockers in hopes of hitting the jackpot. Often joined by his son Brandon, he taught him both the rewards and the risks of gambling big. But in early 2019, Daryl's life nearly ended. After ignoring severe chest pain, he suffered a massive heart attack. For a man fueled by adrenaline, it was a wake-up call. The fearless bidder was suddenly forced to slow down, not by choice, but by necessity. His absence left fans missing both his wins and his losses, and it reminded everyone how fragile life can be. Then there was Brandy Passante and Jared Schultz, a couple who felt like neighbors you couldn't help but root for. Their chemistry was instant and entertaining. Brandy brought level-headed caution, while Jared embraced chaos and impulse. She'd study a locker with laser focus, while he was already itching to bid. Their push and pull dynamic often led to hilarious, sometimes costly results. Together, they ran their own thrift store and turned their finds into profits. But behind the laughter and playful bickering, trouble was brewing. Away from the cameras, their relationship grew strained. By 2020, the news quietly slipped out. The couple had split. For fans who had loved watching their dynamic, it was a bittersweet revelation. They had broken up, but it wasn't the kind of split that made headlines or caused explosive drama on screen. There was no public fight, no fiery war of words, and no dramatic exit to stir gossip. It simply happened quietly but decisively. Later, Brandy gave small hints that their relationship had been far from easy, though she didn't reveal every detail. The few things she did share were enough to show that their time together had been complicated and at times painful. After the breakup, Brandy chose to step back from the demanding filming schedule and instead placed her energy and love into raising her children. Jared, on the other hand, also faded away from the spotlight. Without their familiar back and forth banter and chemistry, the show felt noticeably different. Fans didn't just miss them individually, they missed the dynamic of the duo they once were. Their presence had proven that not every treasure hunt is about antiques, collectibles, or profit. Sometimes, the real treasure lies in the chemistry and connection between two people, if that bond doesn't last forever. When Rene and Casey Nezhoda entered Storage Wars, they brought a completely different kind of energy to the screen. Rene's booming voice carried across every auction crowd, demanding attention, while his sharp eye for valuable items made him a force to be reckoned with. Casey balanced him perfectly, offering a warm personality and a careful, detail-oriented approach that grounded the pair. They weren't just playing the roles of partners. They genuinely worked as a team, both in the world of storage hunting and in their everyday life together. Rene wasn't new to this world either. He had grown up surrounded by resale culture and had years of experience turning hidden treasures into profit. Casey wasn't simply a sidekick, she had her own valuable skill set, from spotting quality pieces to managing the business side of things. Together, they became a powerhouse couple. Their time on screen was not only about business, they knew how to bring fun to the auctions as well. Their interactions were playful and filled with mutual respect. If they won big, they celebrated side by side. If a storage unit turned out to be worthless, they didn't linger on the loss, simply laughed it off and moved on. But in 2023, their lives shifted in a deeper, more personal way. Rene's father passed away after a short but devastating battle with lung cancer. It was an incredibly difficult time, and fans could hear the raw emotion in Rene's voice whenever he spoke about the loss. He expressed profound gratitude for the support he received from friends, family, and viewers alike. That heartbreaking moment seemed to add a new depth to their journey. For the couple, life became less about chasing the next big win and more about building something meaningful and lasting together for many fans. Storage Wars would feel incomplete without the iconic duo of Dan and Laura Dotson. Dan's rhythmic, rapid-fire auction chant, paired with Laura's ever-bright smile, became staples of the show. Unlike the bidders, their role wasn't about competing for lockers. Instead, they were there to keep the auctions alive, and they did so with style, energy, and professionalism. Dan had been in the auctioneering world long before television ever called. His fast-paced delivery could make even a pile of old cardboard boxes sound thrilling. Right beside him, Laura brought her warmth and infectious enthusiasm, ensuring the atmosphere remained both exciting and welcoming. But in 2014, everything nearly came crashing down for them. One morning, Dan woke up not feeling right. His vision blurred, and within minutes, he collapsed. Laura didn't waste a second. She rushed him to the hospital. Doctors quickly discovered that the cause was a life-threatening brain aneurysm. The situation was critical. Without emergency surgery, Dan might not survive. The procedure was dangerous, and the recovery would be long and grueling. Yet with Laura's unwavering support, Dan fought through it. Fans were overjoyed when he eventually returned to the auction block, even if he moved a little slower than before. The terrifying experience changed them. They still loved the auction world, but now they carried with them a deeper awareness of how fragile life truly is. That knowledge seemed to make their smiles a little brighter and their laughs a little louder than ever before. Mary Padian was unlike most of the other bidders. While many competitors approached storage lockers with calculators in hand, carefully plotting profit margins and resale potential, Mary saw auctions as little adventures. To her, a dusty old box wasn't just clutter. It might be a forgotten piece of history or a hidden gem waiting for a second chance. She first appeared on Storage Wars, Texas, where her quirky creativity and joyful outlook made her stand out. Mary came from a background in journalism and design, having worked as an assistant to the editor of Architectural Digest. That experience gave her an eye for detail and a talent for reimagining the potential and overlooked objects on the show. She could often be found digging into a storage locker, pulling out something others ignored, an old trunk, a worn-down chair, and immediately envisioning how to restore it into something beautiful. Her personality was upbeat, quirky, and filled with warmth. While others sometimes clashed over bids, Mary's approach was more friendly and collaborative. She built strong bonds with castmates, often teaming up to share lockers and the work of reviving what they found. Fans loved watching her genuine excitement over her discoveries, no matter how small. Her enthusiasm was contagious. When she transitioned from the Texas spin-off to the original California-based Storage Wars, she carried the same charm with her. She wasn't just buying and selling. She was repurposing, redesigning, and transforming forgotten pieces into custom treasures. Fans nicknamed her the Junkster because of her gift for turning so-called junk into valuable finds. Eventually, though, Mary began appearing less and less. She shifted her energy into running her online store, where she sold her restored pieces to like-minded customers. She also started focusing on personal projects, traveling and exploring new creative opportunities outside the demanding filming schedule. Even though she's no longer a regular on the show, Mary's spirit still resonates with fans. She proved that Storage Wars didn't always have to be about profit. It could also be about passion, imagination, and the joy of finding beauty in the most unexpected places Emily wears may have joined Storage Wars later than most. But she arrived with impressive credentials. By the time she appeared in Season 10, she was already an award-winning auctioneer. She had begun her career at just 17 years old in Iowa, training under her father, who was also in the auction business. From there, she quickly built a reputation. For her lightning-fast chant and confident stage presence, her arrival on the show brought something fresh she wasn't there to bid. She was there to run auctions with precision and professionalism. Emily's style was polished and crisp. Her speed on the microphone impressed even veteran cast members. At only 27 years old, she became one of the youngest professional auctioneers. To appear on the series, breaking barriers in a field traditionally dominated by older men, beyond the show, Emily had already competed in and won several auctioneering competitions, making her a standout in the industry. On camera, she kept the pace lively, but also had fun with the bidders, often matching their playful banter with her own quick-witted comebacks. Fans admired her balance of skill and personality. She quickly developed her own fan base. Her time on Storage Wars lasted just a season or two, but her exit wasn't caused by drama. Instead, Emily chose to focus on her personal life. She married her longtime partner, started a family, and even pursued another passion, singing. She began performing at local events and sharing her music online. Proving that her talents extended far beyond the auction world, Kenny Crosley was the kind of person who stood out immediately, even in the busiest of auctions. With his southern charm, deep drawl, and quick wit, he had the rare ability to turn even a disappointing locker into a moment filled with laughter. Kenny wasn't just there to hunt for storage treasures. He was there to enjoy the ride, make friends, and share good times. Originally from New Orleans, Kenny had lived a colorful life before joining the cast. He had worked in law enforcement, run his own business, and dabbled in a variety of odd jobs. Each experience added to his treasure chest of stories and his unique personality. His introduction to the Storage Wars world came through his friendship with Barry Weiss, one of the show's most eccentric and beloved stars. Kenny first appeared alongside Barry on his wild storage buying adventures. Fans immediately loved his sense of humor and genuine, down-to-earth nature. When Barry eventually stepped away from the show, Kenny remained. Carving out his own space among the regular bidders, Kenny's approach to auctions was relaxed. He wasn't the type to get dragged into intense bidding wars. Instead, he looked for opportunities others overlooked, often going for smaller or quirkier units. His talent for spotting unusual items matched perfectly with his playful personality. Over the years, Kenny became well known for his hilarious one-liners and ability to lighten the mood during tense bidding battles. He had a gift for making everyone laugh, whether it was his fellow castmates or the viewers watching at home.